Right. Let's talk about something that's going to affect millions of UK pensioners starting this month. The Department for Work and Pensions has just confirmed major changes to housing rules that could impact your benefits, your living situation, and potentially your financial security. If you're a pensioner, or you've got elderly parents or grandparents, this is massive news. We're talking about changes that could affect housing benefit, pension credit, and even where you're allowed to live while still receiving support. Now, I know government policy changes can feel overwhelming. Trust me, I've been through the DWP documentation, and it's not exactly light reading. But here's the thing. These changes are happening whether we understand them or not, so let's break it down together in plain English. Before we dive in, I want to ask you something. Have you, or someone you know, ever had to deal with DWP housing rules? Maybe you've struggled to understand what you're entitled to, or felt confused about the whole system. Drop a comment below and let me know your experience. And if you're finding this useful already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We cover UK benefits, housing and financial news that actually matters to real people. Right, let's get into it. So what exactly has changed? The DWP has introduced 3 major shifts that kick in this month. First up, the bedroom tax extension. You know, the bedroom tax, officially called the spare room subsidy removal. If you're under pension age and have a spare bedroom, your housing benefit gets cut. Well, they're now extending similar rules to some pensioners. Here's what's new. If you're a pensioner who moves into social housing after this month, and you have more bedrooms than the DWP thinks you need, your housing benefit could be reduced. Previously, if you were already a pensioner when the bedroom tax came in, you were protected. Not anymore for new tenancies. Let me give you a real example. Meet Margaret. She's 68, just lost her husband, and needs to move from their family home into a council flat. The only available place has 2 bedrooms. Under the old rules, she'd get full housing benefit. Under the new rules, she'll lose roughly £15.20 a week, because the DWP considers that second bedroom spare. Second, income assessment changes. The DWP is also tightening how they assess income for housing support. They're now including more types of pension income that were previously ignored. This includes certain private pension withdrawals and some investment income that many pensioners didn't even realize counted. Sarah, 71, has been drawing small amounts from her private pension to supplement her state pension. Previously, the first £10,000 of this was ignored for housing benefit calculations. Now, it all counts. What does this mean? Potentially thousands of pensioners could see their housing benefit reduced or even stopped entirely. Third, the local connection requirement. This one's really controversial. The DWP is now requiring pensioners to prove a local connection to an area before they can claim housing support there. Basically, if you want to move to be closer to family, or to a cheaper area, or even just somewhere you'd prefer to live, you'll need to prove you have genuine ties to that place. This could be through family, previous residence, or employment history. Think about Tom, 69. Who lives in expensive London but wants to move to a cheaper seaside town in Cornwall. Under the new rules, he'd need to prove he has connections to Cornwall before he could claim housing benefit there. Otherwise, he might be told to look for housing back in London, where his money doesn't stretch nearly as far. What counts as a local connection? Well, that's where it gets murky. The DWP guidelines mention family ties, previous residence, or employment history. But how recent does previous residence need to be? How close to family ties need to be? These are questions that will likely be decided case by case, leaving pensioners in uncertainty. And here's what really bothers me about this rule. It essentially creates a 2-tier system. If you can afford to move without claiming benefits, you have complete freedom. But if you need housing support, suddenly the government gets a say in where you can live. That doesn't sit right with me. Now I'm curious, do you think these changes are fair? I mean, the government says it's about making sure housing support goes to those who need it most. But critics argue it's just another way to cut spending on the backs of vulnerable pensioners. What's your take? Are you worried about how this might affect you or your family? Let me know in the comments. Let's zoom out for a moment. Why is this happening now? The numbers tell a story. Housing benefit costs the government around £23 billion a year. That's massive. And with an aging population, we're talking about 12.4 million people over 65 in the UK right now, expected to rise to 17 million by 2040. those costs are only going up. The DWP says these changes will save approximately £200 million annually. But here's what that means in human terms. That's money coming out of the pockets of some of the most vulnerable people in our society. Let's talk real numbers. The average pensioner affected by these changes could lose between £20 minus £40 per week. That might not sound like much, but when you're living on a state pension of around £185 per week, that's a significant chunk of your income. And here's the broader trend this fits into. We're seeing a systematic reduction in support for older people. Council tax support has been cut, winter fuel payments have been means tested, and now housing support is being tightened. It's part of a pattern. But it's not just about money. These changes could force difficult decisions. Do you stay in an area you can't afford? Do you move away from family and support networks? Do you try to navigate a complex appeals process when you're already dealing with the challenges of aging? The ripple effects are huge. We're potentially looking at increased homelessness among older people, more pressure on adult children to support elderly parents, and greater strain on already stretched social services. The government argues this is about sustainability, making sure the system can support future generations. Critics say it's about balancing the books on the backs of those least able to fight back. Right, so what can you actually do about this? Here are 3 concrete steps. Step 1. Check your current situation. If you're currently receiving housing benefit or pension credit, contact your local council or the DWP directly. Ask them to review your case under the new rules. Don't wait for them to contact you. They might not. Get ahead of any potential changes. You can call the Housing Benefit Helpline on 0800 07 30524 or visit your local Citizens Advice Bureau. But here's a pro tip. Don't just call once. The DWP systems are complex, and different advisors might give you different information. If you get an answer you're not happy with, call back and speak to someone else. And always ask for everything in writing. Step 2. Gather your documentation. Start collecting evidence of your housing needs and local connections. This includes medical letters explaining why you need certain accommodations, proof of family ties in your area, and documentation of any care needs. If you're thinking of moving, research the local connection requirements for your destination beforehand. Create a file, physical or digital, with copies of everything. Birth certificates, marriage certificates, old utility bills, employment records, medical letters, council tax bills. It might seem like overkill, but having this documentation ready can save you weeks or months if you need to make an appeal. And here's something most people don't know. You can request your complete DWP file under data protection laws. This shows you exactly what information they have about you and what decisions they've made. It can be invaluable if you're preparing an appeal. Step 3. Know your appeal rights. If your benefits get cut, you have the right to appeal. Don't accept the first decision if you think it's wrong. Citizens Advice, Age UK, and other charities can help you through the appeals process. The success rate for housing benefit appeals is actually quite high, around 60%, so it's worth fighting if you think the decision is unfair. But here's the crucial bit. You can request a mandatory reconsideration before going to tribunal. This is where the DWP looks at their decision again. It's free, and it often resolves issues without needing to go to a full appeal hearing. Always try this first. If the mandatory reconsideration doesn't work, you can then appeal to an independent tribunal. These are much more successful than people think, especially if you have good evidence and support from an advice agency. So here's my question for you. In a wealthy country like the UK, should pensioners have to worry about losing their homes because of bureaucratic rule changes? These aren't abstract policy decisions. They're choices that affect real people's lives. Your mum, your dad, your neighbors, maybe even your future self. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have these changes affected you? Are you worried about what comes next? And what do you think the government should be doing differently? If this video has been helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more breakdowns of UK benefits and housing news. We're here to cut through the jargon and explain what these changes actually mean for you and your family. Because at the end of the day, knowledge is power. And the more we understand these systems, the better we can protect ourselves and the people we care about. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.